SKOL Vikings, let's win this game.
Vikings fan, take a deep breath because this Vikings day is loaded. There is a draft prospect already looking at Minneapolis with stars in his eyes. There is a heavy return rumor that shakes up the recent past. There is a revelation that completely changes how we read a painful departure. There is a coaching staff move that raises eyebrows. And the final story? That one hits straight at who lives and breathes Vikings football. It changes how we look at the future. But before we get started, real quick with me, subscribe to the channel. It is free, and it helps a lot to keep this daily Vikings conversation going. And when you finish watching today's bombs, drop your opinion in the comments. Let's go. See how the draft never sleeps? We are still enjoying the end of the 2025 season, and people are already eyeing our jersey. And when a young guy talks about Minnesota like this, my ears go up right away. It is not a promise. It is not, I am coming. But it is that little signal that makes the fans in purple and gold think, what if? The one who said it was Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame. He was asked about the chance of being picked by the Vikings in the first round, and he said he would be blessed to play here. He talked about having a lot of great guys on the roster. I laughed to myself. He spoke like someone already picturing himself walking into the locker room, and he is already hearing a skol coming from the tunnel. Now let's be realistic. The 5-game winning streak at the end of 2025 pushed our pick further back. Before that, it felt like we could dream bigger. Then the team decided to start winning when nobody expected it. Good and bad at the same time, right? But the draft is chaos. Someone always slides. A team always does something crazy. And Love is not just any name. He has good size, real speed, and real production. Over the last 2 seasons, he piled up yards and touchdowns at Notre Dame. And he catches passes, too. That is gold for an offense that has been begging for a more reliable running game. When the quarterback is not cooking, running the ball becomes survival. Some scouts compare his style to Jahmyr Gibbs. I like that comparison because it tells me one thing right away. He is not just a hammer between the tackles. He cuts, he accelerates, and he disappears on the edge. There are details to clean up, though. Sometimes he hits the hole too fast and misses an open lane. Young player stuff. That can be coached. The point is this. It has been a long time since we saw a running back who can change the rhythm by himself. Dalvin Cook had his moments, but that chapter is over. Right now, I want someone who makes defenses respect the play action. I want them to do it without laughing at us. And if Love somehow falls into our lap, man, I will pretend I am not excited, but I will not pull it off. The obvious problem is who picks before us. Cowboys, Saints, Jets, even the Chiefs if they want. Then the dream dies. The other option is him sliding hard, or the Vikings making a trade. And trading up for a running back is a heavy decision. I am torn. And yeah, this kind of stands-only reading comes from the bleachers. I want to see Kevin O'Connell blend the run and the pass to steady the team on bad days, because a long season takes its toll, and the NFC never forgives. So tell me in the comments, would you spend a high pick on a running back if the rest of the offense is still a work in progress? Stay with me because the next story steps straight into major rumor territory, and that is when the fan base really starts to feel it. Look, some rumors are born and die in 12 hours, but this one keeps growing for a reason. Over the last few days, the idea of a return that many people swore would never happen has been spreading fast. And when major NFL voices get involved, I stop and listen. The name at the center of it is Kirk Cousins. The spark came from Diana Rossini of The Athletic. She said league sources see Minnesota as an option. The logic is simple. History with Kevin O'Connell, and a clear desire from the team to bring competition for J.J. McCarthy. Then on February 9th, Adam Schefter added serious weight. On the Pat McAfee show, he said Cousins is expected to be released by the Falcons. They restructured his deal with that in mind, and the release should happen before the new league year begins. That means he hits the open market. Schefter also shared a detail that really stood out to me. He asked Kirk directly about Minnesota. He did not get a hard no, but he did not get a yes either. It was a depends kind of answer, and that makes sense. Cousins could look at television, think about retirement, or look for a team where he feels he has a real path to play. On this side, the Vikings have to fix the position. That is not drama, that is fact. McCarthy showed flashes, but his 2025 numbers do not scare anyone. A passer rating of 72.6, 11 touchdowns, 12 interceptions in 10 games. That sparks veteran talk immediately, especially when the season slipped away by 1 game. I still think about that Chicago game, and yeah, it still hurts. Alec Lewis of The Athletic also said Cousins would be open to returning if there is genuine interest. And if the situation feels right. More about opportunity than nostalgia. That matters. This is not a love story. It is business and playing time. There is another layer too. Aaron Jones Sr. went on NFL Network and talked about McCarthy with a calm, patient tone. He said young teams learn how to win by taking hits. He said the group stayed together, and that matters. I like that. I like a locker room that does not fracture. Now think with me. If Cousins comes back, is he a mentor, a direct rival, or just insurance if the kid wobbles? If he blocks McCarthy's development, I am not a fan. But if he raises the level of the room, then it makes sense. And hold on to this, because the next story brings a revelation that completely changes the story of a recent quarterback exit. And when I say changes, I mean it. You know what really got me about this whole situation? We spent weeks buying a clean packaged version of what happened last year. Then one new detail drops and flips the table. And when quarterbacks are involved, that barroom debate heats up instantly. This is about Sam Darnold and his departure. A lot of people swore Kevin O'Connell wanted to keep him at all costs after that ridiculous 2024 season with a 14-3 record, and that the front office only hit the brakes to bet on J.J. McCarthy because of draft position. That was the most repeated story out there. Then Mike Silver of The Athletic dropped a very different bomb on Super Bowl Sunday. According to him, O'Connell did not just let Darnold walk, he actively helped him. He spoke highly of Darnold to John Schneider, the Seahawks general manager, and he gave him a strong recommendation. This was not a cold goodbye, it was an open door with a red carpet. That changes how everything looks. When a head coach sells his quarterback to another team, especially one in the same conference, it means he is comfortable with his plan. He already picked a direction. I honestly paused for a second thinking, wow, so that was it. Then you look at what happened next, and it stings more. Seattle became a serious contender, while Minnesota finished 9-8 with a feeling that quarterback play lacked authority. The chorus of, "We need better quarterback play," started, even from offensive leaders. That matters. I am not pretending Darnold was perfect at the end of 2024. The loss to the Lions to close the season and the playoff loss to the Rams were rough. That could have shifted O'Connell's thinking. One thing is reconsidering. Another is pushing a guy out with praise and connections. To me, that shows real belief in the McCarthy project. It also shows that O'Connell is colder and more calculated than people think. He's a quarterback guy who believes he can mold the next one. But then comes the question fans in purple and gold have been asking since January. What if the plan takes too long? What if the kid does not become what the team needs in time? I hear both sides in the stands. One side says they chose the future. The other says the window will not wait. I am stuck right in the middle because I want the future and I want to win now. That is it. So tell me in the comments, did O'Connell make the right call letting Darnold go? Or was it too big a gamble? Stay locked in because the next story hits the coaching staff, and it sends a familiar name somewhere that makes people jealous. So not everything today is about quarterbacks and the draft. There is some behind-the-scenes news that feels small but really tests a fan's patience, because when a guy leaves here and lands in a place that seems perfectly set up, it makes you ask why it did not work like that with us. The character here is Chris Cooper. He was the Vikings offensive line coach for 4 seasons, and now he has a new NFL home. According to Tom Pelissero, the Philadelphia Eagles hired Cooper as their new offensive line coach. There is an interesting detail, too. He will work alongside Sean Mannion, now the offensive coordinator there. They crossed paths in Minnesota, so this is not a blind bet. It is connection and trust. What does that say about us? First, that Cooper has a market. Not every franchise hires you to coach the offensive line, especially one with a strong reputation in that area. And the Eagles have had that reputation for a long time. Physical line, strong run game, protection that lets quarterbacks breathe. Then comes the part that frustrates Vikings fans. Our line did improve at times. There were games where run blocking clicked and games where protection held up, but there were also weeks where the pocket collapsed in seconds, and no offense survives that. Changing quarterbacks and changing plans only made it uglier. In 2025, PFF numbers placed the unit around the middle of the league, roughly 14th in pass protection and 13th in run blocking. That is not a disaster. But watching games is different than reading grades. There was immediate pressure, there were missed stunts, and drives died on small mistakes. Context matters too. The group got hit by injuries. Christian Darrisaw was not 100%. Ryan Kelly dealt with concussions, and Brian O'Neill played banged up all year. That weighs on any line coach. Still, I understand why the front office chose to move on. Minnesota wants a new voice, new ideas, a different way of teaching technique and adjustments. And as someone who bleeds purple, I want one simple thing. I want the line to become a strength, not an excuse. I want the offense to run with consistency. Hold on to that feeling because the next story takes this same subject and turns the knife. There is a pattern of people leaving this locker room and thriving elsewhere. And if it happens again, the conversation gets much heavier. This is one of those stories that makes you stop, fold your arms, and stare at the empty field. Because it is not just about one name leaving. It is about a pattern that starts to bother anyone who lives and breathes Vikings football. When it keeps happening, you cannot pretend it is coincidence. Once again, the center of the conversation is Chris Cooper. The Vikings chose not to renew his contract in January. Deal over. Door closed. Not long after, the Eagles hand him one of the most respected jobs in the league. Philadelphia's offensive line is not a lab, it is a showcase. That alone raises eyebrows. The real weight comes when you look back. Garrett Bradbury left criticized and ended up in the Super Bowl. Ed Ingram struggled in Minnesota, played well in Houston, and is now in line for a big contract. All tied to our recent offensive line, all thriving away from purple and gold. Then Cooper lands in a structured environment and the question comes naturally. Was the problem always the guy? I am torn. Cooper worked with injured lines, constant roster changes, and quarterbacks who did not help. That matters, but it is also true that during the Kevin O'Connell era, the line never felt like a clear strength. It was always almost there, always conditional, and that wears you down. When a team changes players, coaches, and investments and still does not see clear results, something bigger is wrong. It could be method, communication, or philosophy. And if Cooper goes to Philadelphia and the line stays elite, the debate will get loud, really loud. I am not saying he becomes a genius overnight, but context helps, organization helps, continuity helps. Sometimes that is the difference between failure and success in the NFL. Environment matters, and anyone my age has seen it play out before. What worries me is the reflection back in Minnesota. The Vikings invested big. They drafted early. They paid veterans. They changed schemes. And the line is still a yearly debate. If another name leaves and shines elsewhere, it will be impossible to ignore the flashing red light. This story is not just about Cooper. It is about offensive identity and why things fail to click in Minnesota. When you combine that with shaky quarterback play, risky drafting, and fan pressure, the picture gets tense. Sit with that thought, because it all feeds into a bigger view of where this team really stands. And that is when the conversation gets blunt and unfiltered. See how everything connects into the same feeling? You hear Jeremiah Love talk about Minnesota and you picture the offense taking on a new shape. Then Kirk Cousins starts circling and your heart splits between immediate stability and McCarthy's growth. Suddenly the Sam Darnold revelation hits and you realize Kevin O'Connell's plan was more calculated than it looked. And when Chris Cooper lands with the Eagles with that history of former Vikings finding success elsewhere, it feels like the team is at a real crossroads. My take is simple and bold. 2026 will decide if this roster becomes a real contender or just a promising one. And that depends on getting the offense right, the quarterback right, and the offensive line right. Fans in purple and gold have heard enough promises. Drop your thoughts in the comments. This space belongs to everyone who lives and breathes Vikings football. Stay tuned. SKOL Vikings, let's go!